Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin.
Rhea Klein straightened her navy dress and checked her reflection in the restaurant window. 2 years. 2 years of marriage that felt like a prison sentence she'd served with a smile. The fancy steakhouse in Wheeling hummed, with quiet conversations and clinking silverware. She spotted Harold's silver hair first, then Delphine's perfectly styled blonde curls. "There she is," Harold boomed as Rhea approached their table. His voice carried across half the restaurant. "Our anniversary girl." Lucas didn't look up from his whiskey. His third one, by the look of the empty glasses. "Sorry, I'm late." Rhea slid into her chair. Traffic was awful coming from Mom's. Of course it was. Delphine's smile never reached her eyes. "You should have left earlier. Punctuality is important for special occasions." Rhea bit back her response. Everything was important to Delphine when it came to criticizing her. The way she dressed, spoke, cooked, cleaned. 2 years of death by 1,000 cuts. "Where's your friend?" Harold asked, scanning the restaurant. "Bryn? She's coming. Work ran late." "Lawyers." Harold shook his head, always chasing ambulances. A server appeared with menus, but Harold waved him away. "We've already ordered, for everyone. Hope you don't mind, Rhea. Figured we knew what you'd want." They never asked what she wanted. About dinner, about children, about anything. "Harold." Delphine's voice held a warning. "Not yet." "Not yet what?" Rhea looked between them. Lucas finally met her eyes. His face was pale, sweaty. "Rhea, we need to talk." "About what?" Harold reached into his jacket and pulled out a cream envelope. He set it on the white tablecloth like a chess piece. "Happy anniversary, sweetheart." Rhea stared at the envelope. Harold's handwriting spelled out her name in careful block letters. "What is it?" "Open it," Delphine said. Her voice was sugar-sweet. "It's from all of us." Rhea's hands trembled as she tore the envelope. Legal letterhead. Bold text at the top. Petition for divorce. Lucas Michael Merrick versus Rhea and Merrick. The restaurant noise faded to a buzz. She read the first paragraph, then the second. Irreconcilable differences. Division of assets. No contest requested. "You're divorcing me." Her voice sounded far away. "It's for the best," Harold said. "This marriage isn't working. You know it, we know it, Lucas knows it." Lucas drained his whiskey. "I'm sorry, Rhea." "Sorry." She looked at the papers again. Filed 3 days ago. They'd been planning this while she baked Lucas his favorite cookies, while she helped Delphine organize the church bake sale, while she pretended their family dinners didn't feel like interrogations. "There's more," Delphine said. The restaurant door chimed. A young woman with auburn hair walked toward their table. She wore a simple black dress and a nervous smile. Pretty, younger than Rhea by several years. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Nico Taylor," Delphine said. "She's my cousin's daughter from Texas. Nico, this is Rhea." Nico extended her hand. "Nice to meet you." Rhea didn't take it. She noticed the ring on Nico's left hand. A Merrick family ring. Harold's grandmother's sapphire. "Nico and Lucas have been getting to know each other," Harold said. "She's everything we could want in a daughter-in-law." "Everything we could want," Delphine repeated. Rhea set the divorce papers down carefully. "How long?" "How long what?" Lucas asked. "How long have you been screwing her?" "Rhea." Delphine gasped. "Language. Answer me." Lucas stared at his empty glass. 3 months. 3 months. While she'd been trying fertility treatments. While she'd held his hand through his father's heart scare. While she defended him to her mother when Evelyn said he was weak. "The important thing," Harold said, "is that we handle this like adults. No drama. No lawyers. Just a clean break." A clean break. Ria's voice was steady now. Cold, they were waiting for her to cry, to beg, to fall apart like they expected, like they wanted. She didn't give them the satisfaction. Ria. Bryn's voice cut through the tension. Her childhood friend appeared at the table, briefcase in hand, red hair pulled back in a tight bun. Sorry I'm late. Bryn, Harold said. We were just having a family discussion. Were you? Bryn smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. She sat down next to Ria and placed her own envelope on the table. This one was thick, official-looking. What's that? Delphine asked. Harold should open it, Bryn said. It's addressed to him. Harold picked up the envelope. His name was typed on legal letterhead. He tore it open and pulled out a stack of papers. His face went white. What is it? Delphine demanded. Harold's hands shook as he read. It's a restraining order. And a lawsuit. What? Lucas straightened. Bryn's smile widened. Harassment, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Oh, and there's a petition in there too. For Lucas to undergo fertility testing as part of the divorce proceedings. The table went silent. You can't be serious, Delphine whispered. Dead serious, Ria said. She stood up, smoothing her dress. Happy anniversary, Lucas. She walked out of the restaurant without looking back. Behind her, she heard Harold's voice rising, Delphine's sharp protests, Lucas calling her name. She didn't stop. 3 hours later, Ria sat in her childhood bedroom at her mother's house, still wearing her navy dress. The walls were covered with her high school awards, valedictorian certificate, academic scholarship letters, a photo of her in nursing scrubs from graduation day. That girl had believed the world was fair, that hard work mattered, that love conquered all. That girl had been an idiot. You want to talk about it? Evelyn Klein stood in the doorway, holding 2 mugs of coffee. Not really. Ria took a mug and warmed her hands around it. Too bad. I'm your mother. Talking comes with the territory. Evelyn sat on the bed. At 58, she looked older than her years. Running a diner and raising Ria alone had carved lines around her eyes, but they were kind eyes, honest eyes. How long have you known? Evelyn asked. Known what? That they were planning this. Ria sipped her coffee. I've known something was coming. Harold's been more hostile lately. Delphine's been telling everyone at church that I can't give them grandchildren. But you've been trying. For 2 years. Treatments, tests, procedures. Nothing worked. Ria set down her mug. Harold blamed me. Publicly. Said I was defective. What did Lucas say? Nothing. He never says anything. Evelyn was quiet for a moment. Do you remember when you were 16? That boy Tommy Garrett broke up with you right before prom. Mom, you cried for exactly 10 minutes. Then you put on that blue dress, went to prom alone, and won homecoming queen. This is different. Is it? Evelyn stood up. You've been preparing for this fight, haven't you? Ria looked at her mother. There was no point lying. For 6 months. Good. What do you have? Ria pulled out her phone and opened a voice recording app. Harold threatening to kick me out of the house. She scrolled down. Delphine telling Mrs. Patterson at church that I trapped Lucas into marriage. Another scroll. Bank records showing Harold moved money out of joint accounts. How many recordings? 43. Evelyn smiled. That's my girl. The recordings had started by accident. Harold had called her phone while she was grocery shopping, screaming about how she was embarrassing the family by not getting pregnant. She'd forgotten to hang up. When she played it back later, she realized she had evidence of his verbal abuse. After that, she'd been careful. Strategic. Her phone stayed on record during family dinners. She saved every nasty text from Delphine. She photographed every check Harold wrote from accounts that should have been untouchable. Bryn helped you with the legal parts. Evelyn asked. She's been building a case for months. Harassment, defamation, financial abuse. We have witnesses, too. Who? Mrs. Chun from next door heard Harold yelling at me in the yard. Called me worthless. Said I was ruining his son's life. Jenny Rodriguez from the church secretary pool has copies of emails Delphine sent about me to the whole committee. Evelyn nodded. Anyone else? Dr. Martinez from the fertility clinic. He's willing to testify that Lucas refused some of the tests, the ones that might have shown. Rhea trailed off. Shown what? That the problem isn't me. It had taken months to piece together. Lucas's reluctance to do certain tests, his excuses about work schedules and doctor phobias, Harold's insistence that the problem had to be Rhea because Merrick men are fertile as bulls. But Rhea had been a nurse. She knew how to read medical charts. She knew which tests mattered and which ones didn't. Lucas had done everything except the tests that would definitively diagnose male infertility. You think Lucas is sterile. I think Lucas knows he's sterile, and so does Harold. Evelyn was quiet for a long time. That's why they need to get rid of you, before you figure it out. Too late. Rhea's voice was hard. I already did. The bedroom felt smaller suddenly, full of memories of a girl who believed in fairness, who thought being smart and kind and hardworking was enough. That girl was gone. In her place was someone harder, someone who recorded conversations and gathered evidence and filed lawsuits, someone who fought back. What happens now? Evelyn asked. Now we destroy them. Bryn Ashford's law office occupied the third floor of a converted Victorian house in downtown Wheeling. At 9 p.m., she was the only one still working. Legal briefs covered her desk. Case files stacked on every surface. Empty coffee cups marked the progression of a very long day. Her phone buzzed. Text from Rhea. You were magnificent tonight. Bryn smiled and texted back. That was just the opening move. She'd been waiting 2 years for this chance. 2 years of watching her best friend disappear into Harold Merrick's version of family. 2 years of biting her tongue while Delphine systematically destroyed Rhea's self-worth. And no more. The restraining order was just the beginning. She had harassment charges ready to file, defamation suits that would make Delphine think twice about her gossip campaigns, financial abuse allegations that would freeze Harold's ability to hide assets. But the real weapon was the fertility testing petition. Bryn had spent weeks researching precedent. In West Virginia, a spouse could request medical testing during divorce proceedings if there were questions about marital assets or support obligations. If Lucas's sterility had been hidden during the marriage, it could constitute fraud. Grounds for a much more generous settlement. Her desk phone rang. Ashford Law. This is Harold Merrick. We need to talk. Mr. Merrick, I'm surprised to hear from you. So late. Cut the crap, Bryn. What do you want? I want you to stop harassing my client. Your client is my daughter-in-law. Not for much longer, according to the divorce papers you served tonight. Harold's breathing was heavy on the other end. You're making a mistake. This family has influence in this town. We can make things very difficult for you. Are you threatening me, Mr. Merrick? I'm explaining reality. Bryn hit record on her phone app. Please continue explaining. Lucas doesn't want this fight. Rhea doesn't want this fight. This is just you stirring up trouble for billable hours. Rhea hired me 6 months ago. She very much wants this fight. Silence. 6 months. Harold's voice was smaller now. 6 months. We've been documenting everything, Harold. Every nasty comment. Every threat, every attempt to isolate her from friends and family. You can't prove anything. We have recordings, illegal recordings. West Virginia is a one-party consent state. Rhea was present for every conversation we recorded. perfectly legal. Another long silence. What do you want? Harold asked. Full disclosure of all assets. A generous support agreement. And you and your wife leave Rhea alone. Forever. And if we don't agree, then we go to court, and I put your whole family under oath, including Lucas. She could hear Harold breathing. The fertility testing, he said finally. Yes, that's not necessary. Everyone knows the problem is. The problem is Lucas, Harold. We both know it. The question is whether you want to admit it quietly or have it proven in open court. The line went dead. Bryn leaned back in her chair and smiled. Phase 1 complete. Harold was scared. He should be. She opened Rhea's file and pulled out a list of witnesses. Mrs. Chun from next door, who'd heard Harold screaming. Jenny Rodriguez, who had Delphine's poisonous emails. Dr. Martinez from the fertility clinic, who could testify about Lucas's evasiveness. And now, if she was lucky, Nico Taylor, the new bride who might not be as loyal to the Merricks as they thought. Bryn reached for her phone and dialed. Dr. Martinez? It's Bryn Ashford. I know it's late, but I have a question about male fertility testing. Rhea woke to the sound of someone pounding on her mother's front door. 6 a.m. Gray morning light filtered through her childhood curtains. She could hear Harold's voice in the front yard, loud enough to wake the whole neighborhood. I know you're in there, Rhea. We need to talk. She pulled on jeans and a sweater and walked downstairs. Through the window, she could see Harold standing on the porch. His face was red, his silver hair uncombed. Behind him, Lucas sat in the truck, looking miserable. Evelyn was already in the kitchen, coffee brewing. He's been out there for 10 minutes. What does he want? To intimidate you. Same as always. The pounding started again. Rhea, open this door. Evelyn walked to the front window and pulled back the curtain. Harold Merrick, you get off my property before I call the police. This is family business, Evelyn. My daughter isn't your family anymore. Rhea joined her mother at the window. Harold's face was desperate now. Behind him, neighbors were starting to peer out from behind curtains and blinds. Mrs. Patterson from across the street. The Reynolds family from next door. Half the block was getting a show. He's making a scene, Rhea said. Good. Let everyone see what kind of man he really is. Harold walked up to the window. Rhea, you need to come home. We can work this out. I don't have a home with you anymore. The house belongs to the family. You can't just leave. Actually, I can. Check with your lawyer. Harold's face got redder. You can't take what isn't yours. I'm not taking anything that isn't mine, but I'm not giving up anything that is mine either. Through the window, she could see Lucas getting out of the truck. He looked hungover, defeated. He walked up behind his father. Dad, let's go. She's not coming. Like hell she's not. Harold turned back to the window. You think you're smart, getting that lawyer friend of yours involved. But this town knows who we are. We have friends, connections. We can make life very difficult for people who cross us. Evelyn opened the front door. Is that a threat, Harold? It's a promise. Then I guess I'd better call Sheriff Davidson. Let him know you're threatening my daughter. Harold's face went pale. I'm not threatening anyone. Sounded like a threat to me. Evelyn pulled out her cell phone. Jimmy? It's Evelyn Klein. I've got Harold Merrick on my front porch making threats against Rhea. Harold backed away from the door. Evelyn, hang up. Says he's got connections that can make life difficult for her. Hang up. Evelyn smiled into the phone. What's that, Jimmy? You'll be right over? Thanks. Harold grabbed Lucas's arm. We're leaving. Good choice. Evelyn called after them. They drove away just as Sheriff Davidson's patrol car turned onto the street. He was a big man in his 50s, with kind eyes and a slow drawl. Everything all right here, Evelyn. Just Harold Merrick being Harold Merrick. I heard about the divorce. Sorry, Rhea. How you holding up? I'm fine, Sheriff. Just want to be left alone. Well, if Harold bothers you again, you call me. Day or night. After he left, Rhea and her mother sat in the kitchen, drinking coffee and watching the neighbors slowly return to their houses. That was stupid of him, Evelyn said. He's panicking. Rhea's phone buzzed. Text message from a number she didn't recognize. This is Delphine. We need to talk. Meet me at the church at 2 p.m. Rhea showed her mother the phone. You going? Hell yes. The Methodist church sat on a hill overlooking downtown Wheeling. Rhea had been married there 2 years ago, walking down the aisle in her grandmother's dress, while Harold beamed from the front pew. She'd felt like a princess that day. Young and hopeful and stupid, now she felt like a warrior. Delphine was waiting in the front pew, dressed in a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than most people's car payments. Her blonde hair was perfect, her makeup flawless. She looked like she was posing for a church directory photo. Thank you for coming, Delphine said without looking up. Rhea sat down across the aisle. What do you want? To fix this mess. There's nothing to fix. Your son served me divorce papers. Your husband threatened me this morning. This is exactly what you wanted. Delphine finally turned to face her. We didn't want it to be ugly. Then you shouldn't have ambushed me at dinner. We thought you'd be reasonable. Rhea laughed. Reasonable. You introduced me to my replacement at our anniversary dinner. How is that reasonable? Nico is a lovely girl. I'm sure she is. Lucas seems to think so. Delphine's perfect composure cracked slightly. This doesn't have to be a war, Rhea. It became a war the first time Harold called me worthless. The first time you told the church ladies I was selfish for not giving you grandchildren. You've been fighting me for 2 years. Now I'm fighting back. We just wanted what was best for the family. I was family. Or did I imagine the wedding vows? Delphine stood up and moved to Rhea's pew. You know this marriage wasn't working. You know Lucas wasn't happy. Lucas was never happy. That's not my fault. You couldn't give him children. Neither could he. The words hung in the air between them. Delphine's face went white. What did you say? You heard me. That's not true. We both know it is. The question is how long you've known. Delphine's hands were shaking now. Lucas is fine. The doctors said what Lucas let them say. But he never took the tests that would have diagnosed the real problem, did he? You're lying. Rhea pulled out her phone and opened a voice memo. Dr. Martinez's voice filled the empty church. Mrs. Merrick, I recommended comprehensive fertility testing for both you and your husband 18 months ago. You completed all the tests. Your husband completed some of them, but refused others, specifically the semen analysis and genetic testing that would have determined. Delphine lunged for the phone. Stop it. Rhea stood up, holding the phone away from her. Determined what, Delphine? That your son is sterile? That all those nasty things you said about me were lies. This is private medical information. This is my medical information. I was his wife. I had a right to know. Delphine sat down hard in the pew. You can't use this. I already filed a petition to have Lucas tested as part of the divorce proceedings. The judge approved it this morning. You can't do this to our family. Your family did this to me first. Rhea's phone buzzed. Text from Bryn. Judge approved the asset freeze. Harold can't touch any joint accounts until the hearing. She showed the text to Delphine. That's our money, Delphine whispered. Some of it's my money, and Harold was moving it around to hide it from me. How do you know that? Bank records. I kept copies of everything. Delphine looked around the empty church, like she was seeing it for the first time. People will find out about Lucas. Yes, they will. It will ruin his reputation. He should have thought of that before he decided to ruin mine. Please. Delphine's voice was small now. Desperate. Can't we work something out? Privately. You had 2 years to work something out privately. You chose to make this public when you served me divorce papers in front of half the restaurant. Rhea stood up to leave. Wait. Delphine grabbed her arm. What do you want? I want you to leave me alone. I want Harold to stop threatening me. I want my fair share of the marital assets. And I want Lucas to admit the truth about his fertility. And if we do all that, then maybe I won't file criminal charges for harassment and financial abuse. Delphine's grip tightened. You're destroying an innocent girl too. Nico doesn't deserve this. Then maybe you should have told her the truth before you got her involved. Rhea pulled her arm free and walked out of the church. Behind her, she could hear Delphine crying. She didn't look back. The coffee shop on Main Street was nearly empty at 3 in the afternoon. Rhea sat in a corner booth, watching the door. She'd sent Nico a text an hour ago, we should talk. I have information you need. She wasn't sure the younger woman would come. Why would she trust the ex-wife of the man she was planning to marry? But there was something in Nico's eyes at the restaurant. Uncertainty, like she was beginning to realize she'd walked into a situation she didn't understand. The bell above the door chimed. Nico Taylor stepped inside, looking around nervously. She was prettier than Rhea remembered. Auburn hair, green eyes, delicate features. She looked young. Innocent. She looked like Rhea 2 years ago. Thank you for coming, Rhea said as Nico sat down. I wasn't sure I should. But you did. That says something. Nico ordered coffee from the waitress, then sat back in the booth. Delphine says you're trying to destroy the family. What do you think? I think I don't know what to think. This whole situation is... Nico trailed off. Confusing. That's one word for it. They sat in silence for a moment. Nico looked tired, stressed, like someone who'd been thrown into deep water without knowing how to swim. How long have you known Lucas? Rhea asked. For months. Delphine introduced us when I moved here from Texas. Why did you move here? Nico hesitated. I was having some problems back home. Money problems. Delphine said there were opportunities here, that the family could help me get on my feet. What kind of opportunities? A job at Harold's company, a place to live, and then I met Lucas and... Nico shrugged. And Delphine encouraged the relationship. She said Lucas needed someone who understood family values, someone who wanted children. There it was, the hook Delphine had used to reel her in. Do you want children? Rhea asked. Someday. Don't you? I tried for 2 years. It didn't work out. I'm sorry. That must have been hard. Nico seemed sincere, not cruel like Delphine, not weak like Lucas, just young and naive and in over her head. Nico, can I ask you something personal? I guess. Have you and Lucas talked about having kids tested? Fertility testing. Nico's face changed, a flash of something like fear. Why would you ask that? Because I think there are things about Lucas you don't know. What kind of things? Rhea pulled out her phone and set it on the table. Medical things. I don't want to hear about your marriage problems. This isn't about marriage problems. This is about you making an informed decision about your future. Nico stared at the phone. What's on there? Proof that Lucas can't have children, has never been able to have children. The coffee shop was quiet except for the hum of the air conditioning and the soft murmur of the waitress talking to the cook. That's not true, Nico said finally. It is true. Lucas is sterile, has been for years, probably his whole life. How do you know? Because I was married to him. Because I went through 2 years of fertility treatments while he made excuses about not getting tested himself. Rhea hit play on the audio file. Dr. Martinez's voice filled the space between them. Mrs. Merrick, based on your test results, there's no medical reason you shouldn't be able to conceive. However, your husband has refused several key tests that would help us determine if there are issues on his side. Nico's face went white. Stop. Rhea stopped the recording. Did Delphine tell you that I was the reason Lucas couldn't have kids? She said there were fertility issues in your marriage. She let you believe it was my fault. She said Lucas was heartbroken about not having children. Lucas was heartbroken because he knew the truth and couldn't face it. Nico was quiet for a long time, staring at her untouched coffee. There's more, Rhea said gently. More what? More recordings. Harold screaming at me for being defective. Delphine telling church ladies that I trapped Lucas into marriage. 2 years of verbal abuse because they needed someone to blame. Nico looked up. Why are you telling me this? Because you seem like a decent person, and decent people deserve the truth. What do you want from me? Nothing. I just thought you should know what you're getting into. Nico's hands were shaking now. They lied to me. Yes. About everything. About the important things. Nico stood up abruptly. I have to go. Nico, wait. I can't. I need to think. She rushed out of the coffee shop, leaving her untouched coffee on the table. Rhea sat alone in the booth, staring out the window at the empty street. She felt bad for Nico. The girl was a pawn in Delphine's game, just like Rhea had been, but she felt worse for herself. 2 years of her life wasted on a lie. 2 years of believing she was broken when the problem was never hers to begin with. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. This is Nico. Can we meet tomorrow? I have questions. Rhea smiled and texted back. Of course. I have answers. The Hancock County Courthouse was a red brick building that had presided over local disputes for over a century. Judge Lorraine Kitt had been hearing cases here for 15 years, and she developed a reputation for no-nonsense proceedings and little tolerance for family drama. Rhea sat at the plaintiff's table with Bryn, wearing a simple black dress and her grandmother's pearl earrings. Across the aisle, Lucas sat with his parents and their expensive lawyer from Charleston. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. All rise for the Honorable Judge Kitt. Judge Kitt was a small woman in her 50s, with graying hair and sharp eyes. She took her seat and opened the file in front of her. We're here today for the dissolution of marriage between Lucas Merrick and Rhea Merrick, along with several related civil matters. I've reviewed the filings, and I have to say, this is one of the more contentious cases I've seen in recent years. She looked at both tables. Before we begin, I want to make something clear. This is a court of law, not a family therapy session. I expect professional conduct from all parties. Harold shifted in his seat. He'd been served with a personal restraining order 3 days ago and looked like he wanted to say something, but knew he couldn't. Ms. Ashford, you may call your first witness. Thank you, Your Honor. The plaintiff calls Mrs. Margaret Chin. Mrs. Chun was a small, elderly woman who lived next door to the house Rhea and Lucas had shared. She walked to the witness stand with careful steps and was sworn in. Mrs. Chin, how long have you lived next to the Merrick property? 12 years. During that time, did you have occasion to observe interactions between the defendant's family and Mrs. Merrick? Unfortunately, yes. Can you describe what you observed? Mrs. Chun looked at Harold, then back at Bryn. Mr. Harold Merrick yelled at that poor girl constantly, called her names, terrible names. What kind of names? Objection, the defense lawyer said. Hearsay. Your Honor, Mrs. Chun is testifying to what she personally observed. Overruled. The witness may answer. Mrs. Chen's voice was quiet but clear. He called her worthless, said she was ruining his son's life, said she was defective. How often did you observe this behavior? At least once a week for the past year. maybe more. Did you ever see Mrs. Merrick respond in kind? Never. She just took it, but I could see it was killing her. Harold's face was red, but he stayed silent. Thank you, Mrs. Chen. No further questions. The defense lawyer stood up. Mrs. Chen, isn't it true that you couldn't clearly hear these conversations from your property? I have excellent hearing for my age, and Mr. Merrick has a very loud voice. But you can't be certain of exactly what was said. I'm certain enough. The lawyer looked frustrated. No further questions. Ms. Ashford, your next witness. The plaintiff calls Jennifer Rodriguez. Jenny Rodriguez was the church secretary, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a nervous demeanor. She was sworn in and took her seat. Ms. Rodriguez, you work as secretary for the Methodist Church, where Mrs. Delphine Merrick serves on several committees. Yes, ma'am. In that capacity, do you have access to email communications between committee members? I maintain the email lists and handle correspondence. Did you ever observe emails from Mrs. Merrick concerning the plaintiff? Jenny looked at Delphine, who was staring at her hands. Yes. Can you describe the nature of these emails? Mrs. Merrick sent several messages to committee members about Rhea. They were unkind. In what way? She said Rhea was selfish for not giving Harold grandchildren. She suggested that Rhea had trapped Lucas into marriage. She questioned Rhea's character and her commitment to family values. How many such emails did you observe? Over the past year, maybe 15 or 20. Did you save copies of these emails? Yes, ma'am. They're part of the church's digital records. Bryn approached the witness stand with a folder. Your Honor, I'd like to introduce these emails as Plaintiff's Exhibit A. The judge reviewed the documents. These will be admitted. Delphine's lawyer stood up. Ms. Rodriguez, isn't it true that these emails were private communications between church committee members? They were sent to the entire committee, 15 people, but they weren't intended for public consumption. No, sir. But when someone sends mean things about another person to 15 people, it stops being private. Objection, Your Honor. The witness is making a legal conclusion. Sustained. Strike that last comment. But the damage was done. Jenny had made her point clearly. The plaintiff calls Dr. Carlos Martinez. Dr. Martinez was a tall, distinguished man in his 60s who ran the fertility clinic where Rhea and Lucas had been patients. He was sworn in and adjusted his glasses. Dr. Martinez, were Lucas and Rhea Merrick patients at your clinic? Yes, they were referred by Mrs. Merrick's gynecologist for fertility consultation. What was your recommended course of treatment? Standard fertility workup for both partners. This includes blood tests, genetic screening, and physical examinations. Did both patients complete the recommended tests? Mrs. Merrick completed all tests. Mr. Merrick completed some, but refused others. Which tests did he refuse? Semen analysis and genetic testing. These are crucial for determining male fertility issues. In your professional opinion, is it possible to diagnose fertility problems without these tests? No. You cannot rule out male factor infertility without comprehensive testing. Did you explain this to Mr. Merrick? Multiple times. He always had excuses. Work conflicts, anxiety about the procedures, claims that the problem must be with his wife. Lucas was staring at the table now, his face flushed. Dr. Martinez, based on your examination of Mrs. Merrick, was there any medical reason she should not have been able to conceive? None whatsoever. Mrs. Merrick's fertility tests were completely normal. Thank you. No further questions. The defense lawyer stood up. Dr. Martinez, you cannot testify to Mr. Merrick's current fertility status because he never completed the tests, correct? That's correct. So any claims about his fertility would be speculation on your part. Without complete testing, yes. Thank you. Judge Kit looked at Bryn. Any more witnesses, counselor? One more, Your Honor. The plaintiff calls Nicole Taylor. A murmur went through the courtroom. Harold's eyes widened. Delphine grabbed her lawyer's arm. Nico walked to the witness stand wearing a simple blue dress. She'd been crying recently, but her voice was steady when she was sworn in. Ms. Taylor, how do you know the defendant, Lucas Merrick? We were engaged. Until yesterday. What changed yesterday? I learned that he and his family had lied to me about why his first marriage ended. What did they tell you? That Rhea couldn't have children, that she was selfish and unloving, that Lucas was heartbroken about not being a father. Did you later learn different information? Yes. Rhea showed me medical records and recordings that proved Lucas was the one with fertility problems. How did this make you feel? Betrayed, used, like I was brought in to be a scapegoat, just like Rhea had been. Harold's lawyer objected. Speculation. Sustained. Ms. Taylor, did Mrs. Delphine Merrick make any statements to you about the purpose of your relationship with Lucas? She said the family needed someone who could give them grandchildren. She said Lucas deserved a woman who understood family obligations. Did she ever mention that Lucas might not be able to father children? Never. She led me to believe the problem was entirely with Rhea. Thank you. No further questions. The defense lawyer's cross-examination was brief and ineffective. Nico was credible, sympathetic, and clearly angry at being deceived. After the witness testimony, Judge Kit called for a brief recess. When she returned, her expression was stern. I've heard enough testimony to reach a decision on these matters. First, regarding the divorce itself, I find that irreconcilable differences have been established. The marriage is dissolved. She looked at Harold and Delphine. However, the circumstances surrounding this divorce are deeply troubling. The evidence shows a systematic campaign of harassment and emotional abuse directed at Mrs. Merrick by Mr. Harold Merrick and Mrs. Delphine Merrick. Harold started to stand, but his lawyer pulled him down. The court finds that both Harold and Delphine Merrick engaged in intentional infliction of emotional distress. The verbal abuse, public humiliation, and deliberate spread of false information constitute harassment under West Virginia law. Judge Kit opened another folder. Regarding the financial matters, I'm awarding Mrs. Merrick the marital home, monthly spousal support of $3,000 for 2 years, and half of all marital assets. Lucas's face went white. Additionally, I'm issuing a permanent restraining order prohibiting Harold and Delphine Merrick from contacting Mrs. Merrick directly or indirectly. She looked directly at Harold. Mr. Merrick, if you violate this order, you will be arrested and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Finally, Judge Kit said, I'm ordering Lucas Merrick to undergo comprehensive fertility testing within 30 days. The results will be sealed but may be relevant to any future legal proceedings. She closed the file. Court is adjourned. The news spread through Wheeling like wildfire. Small towns loved scandal, and the Merrick family drama had everything: lies, betrayal, financial manipulation, and a public courtroom humiliation. Rhea heard about the fallout from Bryn, who seemed to take particular pleasure in reporting each new development. Harold's been removed from the church board, Bryn said, sitting in Evelyn's kitchen 3 days after the hearing. Good, Rhea said. She was making bread, kneading the dough with more force than necessary. Delphine resigned from all her committees before they could vote her out. Apparently, Mrs. Patterson led a campaign to have her expelled. Mrs. Patterson never liked her anyway. The best part is Lucas. He's been staying with his parents since you got the house. Apparently, he's drinking heavily and won't come out of his childhood bedroom. Rhea felt no sympathy. Lucas had made his choice when he let his parents treat her like garbage for 2 years, when he'd been too weak to defend his own wife. What about the fertility test results? Evelyn asked. Sealed by the judge's order. But word gets around in medical circles, Bryn said. Let's just say Dr. Martinez's diagnosis was correct. Rhea stopped kneading. So it's confirmed. Sterile since birth. Genetic condition. He's known for years. The bread dough tore under her hands. 2 years of her life. 2 years of believing she was broken, worthless, defective. 2 years of treatments and procedures and false hope while Lucas sat there knowing the truth. Rhea. Her mother's voice was gentle. I'm fine. But she wasn't fine. She was furious, the kind of cold, clean fury that burned everything in its path. The house is yours free and clear, Bryn continued. The judge awarded you full ownership as part of the emotional distress damages. Harold can't touch it. What about the support payments? $3,000 a month for 2 years. Lucas will have to get a job. His father can't afford to keep supporting him now that their business reputation is destroyed. Harold's contracting company had lost 3 major contracts in the past week. Word about his campaign of cruelty against his daughter-in-law had spread through the business community. In a small town, reputation was everything. Any word from them? Rhea asked. Apologies. Request to talk. Harold's lawyer called yesterday, wanting to negotiate a non-disclosure agreement. Apparently, they're willing to pay extra if you'll agree not to discuss the case publicly. What did you tell them? I told them to go to hell. Rhea smiled. It was the first genuine smile she'd managed in days. The restraining order is permanent, Bryn added. They can't come within 500 feet of you or your mother's house. If they try, they go to jail. Good. Evelyn set down her coffee mug. What will you do now? It was a good question. For 2 years, Rhea's life had been consumed by the Merricks, their demands, their criticism, their endless quest for grandchildren. Now she was free, but freedom felt strange after so long in prison. I'm thinking about going back to nursing, she said. The hospital would hire you back in a heartbeat, Evelyn said. Maybe not the hospital. Maybe something different. She'd been thinking about it for days. A small clinic, maybe. Somewhere she could help people who really needed it. Single mothers who couldn't afford regular health care. Women like her, trapped in bad situations and looking for a way out. I could help with funding, Bryn said. The emotional distress settlement was generous. You could use it for something meaningful. Something that would drive Harold crazy. That's just a bonus. They sat in comfortable silence, planning Rhea's future. A future that belonged to her alone. 6 months later, Rhea stood in the empty storefront on Market Street, envisioning examination rooms and a waiting area. The space was perfect for a small clinic. Close to the bus lines, affordable parking, walking distance from the women's shelter. The lease is reasonable, the realtor said. Owner wants a long-term tenant who'll improve the neighborhood. When can I move in? First of the month, if you want it. Rhea signed the lease that afternoon. The Klein Women's Health Center opened 3 months later with a small celebration at Evelyn's diner. Half the town showed up, including Sheriff Davidson and Judge Kit. Dr. Martinez cut the ribbon and agreed to serve as consulting physician. I'm proud of you, her mother said, watching the crowd fill the diner. It's just a small clinic. It's justice. Rhea looked around the diner. New commercial equipment gleamed in the kitchen, paid for with settlement money. Evelyn had been able to expand her menu and hire 2 part-time servers. The place was busier than it had been in years. Justice. Yes, that felt right. Any regrets? Evelyn asked. Rhea thought about it. 2 years of marriage that felt like a lifetime. The humiliation, the verbal abuse, the systematic destruction of her self-worth. The discovery that everything she'd believed about herself was a lie. "No," she said. "No regrets." Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "This is Lucas. Can we talk?" "I want to apologize." She deleted the message without responding. Another text, this one from Delphine. "Please. We know we made mistakes. Can't we work things out as a family?" Deleted. Harold. "I'm sorry for everything. Can we start over?" Deleted. More messages from the Merricks. Evelyn asked. "They think if they apologize enough, I'll forgive them. Will you?" "Never." The word felt good in her mouth. Final. Definitive. Some things couldn't be forgiven. Shouldn't be forgiven. 2 years of systematic cruelty wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. They'd chosen to destroy her, and she'd chosen to survive. More than survive. She'd chosen to win. Bryn appeared at her elbow, holding 2 glasses of champagne. To new beginnings. To getting even. They clinked glasses and drank. Through the diner window, Rhea could see the local news van setting up across the street. They were doing a follow-up story on Harold's fall from grace. The former fire chief had lost his city pension after an investigation into financial irregularities. Delphine had been caught lying to federal investigators about church finances. Lucas was working at a gas station and living with his parents, the mighty Merrick family, reduced to what they'd always been underneath the facade. Small, petty, cruel people who'd finally been held accountable for their actions. "They thought they'd bury me," Rhea said, watching the news crew set up their equipment. "They forgot I can dig, too." The reporter was a young woman from Charleston, ambitious and hungry for the story. She'd spent weeks investigating the Merricks, uncovering a pattern of harassment and financial manipulation that went back years. Rhea wasn't their first victim, just their most recent. "The interview airs tomorrow night," Bryn said. "Good. Let everyone see what they really are." Rhea Merrick was dead. She died in that restaurant 6 months ago. Divorce papers scattered across white tablecloth. In her place stood Rhea Klein, business owner, healthcare provider, survivor, a woman who'd learned that sometimes the best revenge wasn't forgiveness. Sometimes the best revenge was justice. And sometimes justice looked like a small clinic on Market Street, serving women who needed someone to believe their stories. Women who'd been told they were worthless, defective, broken. Women who needed to know they could fight back and win.